Good evening, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to Campus Debates on Monday at 8 p.m. My name is Mercy Vugutsa, and I will be your host. For this episode, we get to meet another amazing set of teams from Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology and Kenyatta University, debating the second category of quarterfinals, and hopefully we'll get to see one team in the semis. With that, I would love to welcome the team from side proposition, Kenyatta University, and the team from side opposition, Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. I think I need to clarify a few things before we go into knowing our debaters a bit more. For this quarterfinals round, if you lose a round, you don't get to proceed to semifinals, which means your journey in campus debates has been cut short, and hopefully we'll get to see you in the next season. But for the team that wins, they get to battle for their lives one more time at the semifinals and hopefully for the finals. And in the end, we'll get to see one team getting the crown of campus debates. Now, I would love us to know our speakers from Kenyatta University. They're represented by two amazing people before us. They've given us their unique perspectives a few number of times. I think by now they have run out of ideas for what is unique about them. So without further ado, I will allow them to say their names and then tell us something interesting about their school that they think they're proud of, and they would largely convince people to join this particular school. Proposition.
Hi guys, I'm Chester Vidonyi from Kenyatta University. Something in particular I love about Kenyatta University is the infrastructure with a lot of rich history, especially this particular region called the Campanile. So guys, if you'd like to join KU, feel free. It's a nice place.
Hello, my name is John Mwendwa. Something I love about KU is that there is a sense of freedom, so we don't have a dress code. You can dress as you want.
For one of the speakers, they are proud of Kenyatta University's infrastructure. I think one of the greatest arguments we always have as a nation is the comparison between private schools and public schools when it comes to the infrastructural capacity. But I think Kenyatta University has surpassed that argument. The other speaker from side proposition says their biggest win about Kenyatta University is their ability to not have a strict dress code. I wonder what Mwendwa has to wear that requires a dress code for him to actively go to school. But without further ado, allow us to meet side opposition, and to them I will allow them to introduce themselves and possibly one interesting thing about their school, aside from the fact that it is a very lengthy name. But without further ado, first speaker, opposition.
So hi everyone, my name is Sandra Njoki from Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology, the long name. One interesting thing about our school, I'd say it's a technical school, so there are a lot of technical facilities. So if you'd like to do engineering, it's a school for you.
Hi everyone, my name is Leon Agola from JKUAT. In addition to what Sandra has said in terms of engineering, given that I'm an engineering student, for a very long time, JKUAT has been known as Juja Boys for no apparent reason, and case in point, Sandra is here. So no, it's not Juja Boys, it's a university, so feel free to come.
And for side opposition, they are proud of the fact that JKUAT is an engineering school with capacity to offer technology courses for their students. And for the second speaker, they are trying to prove the point that JKUAT is not Juja Boys, but rather a school that has both genders incorporated, hence the amazing gender equality that we have from side opposition. I think we've gotten to know our speakers a bit much. With that, I welcome our judges to introduce themselves and possibly tell us something interesting about the schools they were part of prior to this debate.
All right, my name is Brian, and by the way, congratulations to the teams on the stage today for coming thus far to the tournament. May the best team win. The University of Nairobi does not need any much of introduction. Just type the on Google, it will do the completion for you. It's the space where you need to be if you want to be of a person of more IQ than you are right now. See you at the university committed to scholarly excellence.
Hello everyone, my name is Perez Mono. Kenyatta University has a self-contained market, a very good market called Kenyatta One. So you don't need to probably go up to town or any other place. You can just get your products or anything you want within the school. So we can say it's a city or a university within its own like town or home. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Winnie Sidney from the University of Nairobi. One thing interesting about it's that we have a unique academic calendar compared to other institutions. Thank you.
You have heard from the judges as well. I don't know what it is with University of Nairobi students with always associating their schools with just the article the. I don't think there's any other university that has been able to measure up to that, but we've gotten that from the judges themselves. And for Kenyatta University as well, I think the only reason why there's a market within the school structure is based off of the vast and wide and very, very big school that they have as KU. And I think they are ready as judges to get to listen to what the debaters have for them for this round. I know you're excited and waiting to hear what motion is there that the teams will be tackling for this quarterfinal second episode. The motion for this round reads, this House believes that Kenya will be more economically stable by reducing the number of governors from 47 to 30 and eliminating chief administrative secretary positions. I will read that again. This House believes that Kenya will be more economically stable by eliminating the number of governors from 47 to 30 and reducing chief administrative secretary positions. I think this is at a unique time where we are getting to understand what the government structures look like and the offices that we don't think need to continue existing. I know you have an opinion at home. Feel free to let us know. Do you think CAS positions are actually not going to do any benefit for our state? Or do you think there's not going to be any economic repercussion, whether they remain or reduce, or whether we reduce those seats? Without further ado, I welcome first speaker proposition side to engage with the motion. Hear, hear.
Before I commence, shout out to Jacob Juma. We were never familiar with your game. The motion states that this House believes that Kenya will be more economically stable by reducing the number of governors from 47 to 30 and eliminating chief administrative secretary position. This is a reduction in the number of governors by 17. What do we mean, what do we understand by the term reducing the number of governors? This means that we will have to merge pre-existing counties with other ones so that they can be better managed by other governors. How will we achieve this? This will be done by virtue of the demograph and the location of these counties, whereby we will choose counties that are, one, near each other to be merged, two, have a shared history that is positive so that we can still foster peace and security in those areas, people who have similar cultures and share similar languages. For example, you might find Kiambu and Nyeri, Bungoma and Busia, Makueni and Machakos being merged. These counties already have pre-existing structures within them. They have parastatals, they have sewer management systems, they have all these structures that have enabled their running up to this particular point in time. So we also believe that by merging them, we won't have a need for us to create new structures in essence. We'll just transfer management from one particular person to another leader. That's how the whole thing will work. In terms of economic stabilities, there are a few factors that affect the economy that we will engage with, and as to why this is the perfect metric for us to increase the stability of our economy. One is security and peace. Two is trade. Trade is influenced by infrastructure and development. In security and peace, we've already told you the metric by which we'll be merging these particular counties. We'll look for people who have shared histories, shared cultures, shared languages, and they have a positive history together, meaning these people are less likely to conflict with each other, meaning there is a good environment for growth and development in those particular areas. When it comes, I'll engage on trade later on. When it comes to how countries get the budget allocated to them, there are two main factors that influence the money that is allocated to a particular county. One, the population of that particular county. And two, the level of development present in that particular county. Meaning, Nairobi gets a certain amount of money because of the number of people in Nairobi, and also because of the level of infrastructure, so that we can determine whether we need to put up new structures or whether we need to maintain the existing ones. That is how counties get these particular funds. And by merging these counties, we won't have a need for us to change the metrics. We'll just merge the budgets of these particular two counties that are being merged, two or more, and the cost won't be more due to the criteria that I've mentioned before. Because these will still be the criteria, we'll just merge the two budgets of these particular counties, and then we'll use that for the overall new county. Let's say Nairobi, Kiambu, when it's merged, we'll just use the budgets of both counties. And also, we believe it will be cheaper because we'll be having to pay less civil servants in terms of governors and deputy governors, in essence. The functions of devolution. Devolution was brought forth to our country, one, to promote democratic and accountable exercise of power. My partner will engage on accountability. Two, foster national unity by recognizing diversity. And three, enhance public participation in governance. I believe by the metric by which we will be merging these particular counties, we have realized these functions of devolution, and devolution is still in practice to its core belief. Currently, we are spending a lot of money that we either do not have or on things we cannot afford as a country. And that is why our country has a lot of debt, in essence. A county governor, the average county governor, earns around 990,000. And we have not even gotten into the deputy governor. By this particular metric, if we reduce the number of counties by 17, this means roughly, if a governor earns roughly $1 million each, rounding off the 100,000, we'll be saving at least 17 million shillings a month that will have been paid the governor alone. And we have not yet gone into other expenditures. We believe that a lot of money in our budget is being used in recurrent expenditure, that is the paying of governors and all those other things that they require. And this money, however little they might deem it, it might be of essence, or it might provide essential services to other people in other areas. Because currently, as a country, we have hospitals that do not have medicines. We have areas which do not have access to clean water. There are schools without desks or even books, yet we can still afford to pay an extra 17 million a month to governors that we could have reduced. We believe that the reduction in their numbers is vital to allocate that extra cash somewhere else so that we can realize the development that we need, so that we can also boost our economic stability. In terms of the cabinet, the chief administrative secretaries, backtrack on that. In terms of foreign travel or spending that governors spend on foreign travel, the least is 50 million that is being Laikipia. And it can go to up and around 500 million for one single governor. So you can get the amount of cash that is being wasted by these particular leaders that we could have used into other areas that could boost our economy, in essence. And these are roles that could be given to other governors, and we'll have better accountability for all these funds rather than disburse all these funds to all these other people. I rest my case. My partner will bring forth the rest of our arguments. Thank you.
Side proposition have started off their argument by saying governors earn a lot of money and it's feasible to actively merge counties together, so that justifies removing these seats or reducing them to by 17. With that, we welcome side opposition to engage with this argument and give us their substantive. Hear, hear.
I'll begin by saying this, that all sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya and shall be exercised only in accordance to the Constitution. The people may exercise their power either directly or through their elected representatives. Over the past few weeks, there have been calls for austerity measures to be carried out by government to improve efficiency and delivery of service. Some of these proposals have ranged from reducing budgets to eliminating certain offices. That being said, we still oppose this motion, and it is for these particular reasons. Before that, I feel I need to do a bit of background so that we can have a better understanding of what it is exactly we're dealing with here. First things first is the fact that there are three types of boundaries that exist within the country. There's the national, that is mandated by the Ministry of Interior as a representative of the national government. There's the electoral, that is the constituencies and county assembly wards. And then there's the administrative boundaries, that is where the county governments fall in. County government boundaries can be altered only by a resolution that is recommended by an independent commission in Parliament. So, and this here is where the potential first snag comes in, because proposition says that it is going to be done through geographical means and through the closeness of people in terms of their historical culture and their closeness in terms of people next to each other within counties. However, this here brings out the very obvious issue that we need to have at the very least 30 governors sitting down and agreeing that yes, we want to reduce these positions from 47 to 30. And given the political class that we know right now, these are not people who are going to be interested in that. They're people who want to protect themselves. Therefore, the likelihood of that even working is pretty low. Let's go into the metrics of economic stability. I've picked out four. They're quite a number. There's the GDP, inflation rate, unemployment, and balance of payment. Talking about the considerations that go into altering these boundaries, there is the population density, physical and human infrastructure, the historical and cultural ties, the cost of administration, and the views of the communities that have been affected. So the first thing that comes out here is this. Up to this point, we have not seen a unified call amongst Kenyans to actually call for the introduction of 30 governors, if I'm to put it like that. As a matter of fact, no one has actually called that we should have a reduction in the number of governors. So all we're hearing now is that the sovereign power of the people of Kenya is being taken away, because this is not something that they've been calling for. If anything, all they've been calling for is that we need to have a more accountable government and a government that is fiscally responsible in carrying out their duties. So the first thing, one of the first problems that exists is that the process in itself is actually quite long and cumbersome, because one, you need either someone within these counties or a member of parliament within the counties or a county governor or a senator to actually come up with the proposal. Secondly, you need people to actually come together and agree that we need to eliminate these boundaries and have ourselves exist as one. Now, the particular problem that exists for that is this. Even within the current counties that we have, we still see a lot of conflicts that exist within these counties themselves. Therefore, even when proposition says that there's going to be better security and peace because we are having people who are close by being merged into one county, it is very simple. In counties like Baringo, we are seeing a lot of conflicts within the communities there without involving anyone from outside that community. Therefore, there's no assurance that even if we are to merge Baringo with Nakuru, that these people are going to be all of a sudden peaceful. It does not work like that. The other thing here, and I think this is something that is most important, is that it does not deal with the actual issue that is being forwarded here. One is that the metrics that are often used in terms of gauging economic stability have very little to do with economic policies on a county level. most of the time it has to do with economic policies on a national level. When you talk about things to do with GDP, unemployment, inflation rates, these are things that are mainly dealt with on a national level. Therefore, even if we are to reduce this, it doesn't necessarily mean that the country gets better. The intuition prompt for that is this. In the past, we had 7 provinces, and it can be argued that our economy then was worse than it is now. Therefore, there's no assurance that even if we're going to reduce these counties to 30, that all of a sudden we become the Singapore of Africa. These are already 2 governors who the people already have a lot of issues with. And these are the same 2 people who are going to come back to present themselves before the people as the best solution for this new county. So we feel that unless there's a guarantee that new people are going to come in, we're still going to be recycling the same problems and going to end up in the same problems, instead of dealing with the actual real issue, which is efficiency and elimination of corruption within government. Thank you.
I think I saw a meme just the other day stating the most depressing entry of a book that I've ever read is the line that goes, "The sovereign power belongs to the people and can be exercised either by the people or by the people representing them." I don't know if you agree with this sentiment, but feel free to engage with us on X at KTN Home with the hashtag Campus Debates. We'll be going on a short commercial break, and when we are back, we'll get to understand, do we really need this extra 17 seats for these governors? And at the same time, do we need to have the continuous existence of CAS positions within government structures? See you after this short break. Thank you so much for choosing to engage with us further during this second half of Campus Debate Season 2, second quarterfinals round. KU versus JKUAT, with KU as proposition and JKUAT as opposition. What has happened in the first half of the debate? Side proposition has argued that it is actually very feasible to merge counties together, so that shouldn't be the argument within this debate. But equally, they say, when you do this, governors earn over like an estimated budget of like rounding off to 1 million each. With this, if we're able to reduce these seats by 17, then we get to save ourselves approximately 17 million, and by far this reduces us like from the burden of borrowing debt every single time. From side opposition, however, they argue that the biggest problems within this state is not the salaries that we pay people, but rather the corrupt nature of governments within these structures. So for them, unless we rid ourselves of corruption, then it will still continue existing whether we reduce these positions or we eliminate them altogether. I don't know which argument has swayed you. If you're just joining us, thank you so much. We'll get to hear from the second speakers from each team to sway you further with the debate. With that, welcome second speaker, side proposition, to continue with their case. Here.
So normally, I like to start these speeches with a bit of introduction, but today the math is not mathing, so no jokes today. Just head straight to debate. I'm going to do 2 things. One, I'm going to explain how we reduce expenditure and why that matters in regards of creating a more stable economy. And then I'm going to engage with opening opposition and the arguments that they bring. We argue that because the motion says you reduce the number of governors by 17 and you reduce the number of chief administratives, not reduce, eliminate them altogether. We tell you that, like, in terms of expenditure, for example, governors are paid roughly 1 million per month. So if you reduce governors like by 17, you save 17 million in 1 month. In terms of things such as travel allowances, counties like Nairobi use up to 500 million in foreign travel. That is the governor alone, Sakaja, not anyone else. Other like counties use around 50 million. So if it's a 50 million county you are merging, you probably save around 1 billion. If it's something like Nairobi, you save like $500 billion from just merging them and eliminating that. 2, on the idea of the chief administrative secretaries, the proposed budget for them is around 780,000 salary per month for them. If you eliminate them, you get around 17 million in a month. You look at the medical covers that these people are promised to have. for these chief administrative secretaries, they are promised a 10 million medical cover for them, their spouses and their children. You eliminate such kind of things, you save around like 22 to 50 million per month just from them. This is not including things such as foreign travel, you have to service their cars, and like you saw the budget of the deputy president in regards to the amount of cars he wants, and these guys drive Range Rovers and Audis. They don't drive like these normal cars you guys drive. So you like if you eliminate that, you imagine like the amount of money you save for the like just for the economy in terms of that. And the chief administrative secretary position is very curious position, because it's a freehold position, meaning there's no limit to the number of people the president can choose. He can choose 100 or 20 for all he cares. So this budget can increase exponentially in their world. Why is this essential in this debate? 3 is just that you reduce like expenditure. It means that you have more money which can be used for other things such as development of roads, businesses, which can help the country in development, and generally you get a more stable economy. In regards to opening opposition, they argue the idea of one, this will be hard to do. We think that you have kind of to consent that this is possible, because this is this house believes that motion. You kind of have to accept that this will be done in some way, and even if it's hard, like everything is hard. That's why we have experts to do this. Like we have people who have taken years in university to learn about borders and all of that stuff. We think we can be able to do this. Secondly is on the idea of corruption, that you still have corruption, so nothing really happens. One, our case is not really hinged on corruption being eliminated or not. It's about expenditure being eliminated and the impacts that come from that. So even if corruption exists, it does not affect our case. But secondly, we think corruption is already being dealt with. In the current wave of Gen Zs and the amount of asira that is in the country, you are not about to be corrupt, utasalimiwa. So we think ideally in status quo, such kind of things are not going to happen. I'll take you.
Are you suggesting that there will be a reduction in expenditure when there exists budgeted corruption within these places, especially when we factor in that it's the same people in the political class who will most likely be the ones who will be there when the 30 governors or 47 or 20 or whatever?
Yeah. There's a reduction in expenditure. Like now you don't have to pay 47 governors, you're only paying 30 of them. You don't have to pay like 50 CS, you're only paying like 0 of them. I think my time is up.
I think proposition has gone out of their way to prove to you why the removal of these CAS positions and the reduction of governors within the state would actively mean a more economically stable state. I don't know what opposition has to say about that. So with that, we welcome the second speaker, opposition, to engage with the motion. Here.
Panel, the biggest premise of proposition case is that we need to essentially reduce expenditure. Reducing expenditure means that we need to like redirect funds, right? And the biggest problem with their case, which I will point out, is the fact that they're merging two separate things. Just give me a minute to locate it. They're merging two completely separate things. They're talking about merging regions and then reducing governors' salaries, right? So they're talking about the fact that, we'll merge these regions, something that they do not analyze and tackle as to essentially how this will work, considering that in these same regions that they're terming to be like culturally and politically the same, there are regions that have been worked on and have developed, and there are regions that are underdeveloped. These regions will be merged together, meaning you'll actually need more money to be able to catch up some of these regions to the ones that are more developed, right? Now, continuing with the fact that they're merging two different things. The whole idea of saying that they will reduce governors' salaries, right, to be able to like fit it into the expenditure now, right? Number one, they do not essentially provide an analysis to account for how this expenditure or how this money will essentially help or assist the government in the first place to achieve economic stability. That is the one thing that we need to achieve, and I need to highlight economic stability to the country. So the side that wins, panel, is the one that is able to prove to you that even with existence of all of these things that are there in like government and all of that, we are able to achieve economic stability, something that they've not been able to essentially prove to you thus far, right? So, economic stability. Let me give you a bit of context of essentially how CAS positions are created, which my partner has done. He has talked about the whole idea of the fact that CAS positions are essentially created as like deputies for CAs, meaning these are people who pick up the slack for something that CAs have not essentially done, right? So these are roles in government that have jobs that they are being paid to do. They need to account for the whole idea of the fact that when you scrape these positions, these are roles or positions that are left dormant for a certain period of time. Not even a certain period of time. They are arguing that you need to scrape them completely, meaning these are roles and jobs that are essentially left dormant. They need to account for the fact that these things that were being done by these CASs, how will they then be fulfilled on their side of the world? This work that was being done by these CASs, I'll take you the 5th minute, will essentially be done on their side of the world, considering you have now left all the burden to the CAs and you don't want to increase their salaries because you want to reduce on expenditure, meaning these people will have an overload of work that they won't essentially be able to achieve. Therefore, you leave room for a country whereby people are being overloaded, they can't be able to fulfill their roles. It now becomes problematic, right? Now, tackling the whole idea of the fact that they want to mention, they want to mention the whole idea of the budget increasing, or rather helping the population, and the fact that the level of development they want to assume in these particular regions is kind of the same, right? I want to give you a bit of context on how merging these particular counties or these particular regions will look like, right? So you've taken, as I've talked about in my first particular case, right? So you've taken these two regions that, let's say, Kitui and Machakos. Machakos hypothetically is more developed than Kitui, right? So you merge these two regions together, right? And then you give them one governor who is essentially the same person that was probably already in government. The governor of Machakos has been given Machakos and Kitui, right? You want to reduce his salary, and then you want to give him a bigger region. You want to reduce his travels and all of that, because you're saying that that money is essentially useless that he's using for travels and benchmarking and all of that. We don't deny that essentially some of these governors use this money terribly, or rather they travel, they use this money terribly in terms of like travel and all of that. But we need to understand that adding these regions to these people means that they now have an extra workload of essentially things that they need to achieve for these regions. Reducing their salaries gives them an incentive to actually now slack in their types or in their works and all of that. And the fact that they've not accounted for where these salaries will then be taken, will you take them to develop these counties? Will you take them to develop education sectors? What will you do with this money? Considering corruption exists on both sides of the world, we need to account for the fact that essentially this money will be able to be put into good use. I think that we provide to you on our side of the world is the fact that we don't essentially need to merge these regions to reduce the governors to achieve this economic stability by scraping their salaries. This can be done the same way on our side of the world, in that you're keeping these governors in place. They have the same regions that they have, the same boundaries and all of that, the 47 counties. You're reducing their salaries, because that is something that we also aim to achieve, to essentially get to economic stability, because they've considered that the biggest chunk of money that is used in counties is the one that is used to pay the governors, which is essentially problematic, and we concede to that, right? So we assume, or rather we propose the solution that reducing expenditures and costs in these particular areas, whereby it is either reducing their salaries or reducing their traveling allowances and all of that, will essentially be better in achieving economic stability, rather than merging the counties, which will prove to be problematic in that these people are, number one, overloaded, and number two, it will even create a whole scenario where you will need to increase the budget for each county because the region is bigger, something they've also not accounted for, right? So they need to account for all of these things to actually be able to win. Now, yes, I'll take you.
Assuming before these positions, the CAS position, before it was initiated, that the cabinet was not working, what is the work of the permanent secretary now that this position has been made?
Okay. Now, that's a very good question. It has actually reminded me something. We need to understand that CAS positions were positions that were introduced later on after the government has been able to develop and all of that, right? So at a point where even before these CAS positions were introduced, it was essentially problematic. There was the economy was in shambles at the time still, right? And at a point where essentially they've now been introduced, the economy is still in shambles. It now paints a picture where we need to focus on other things rather than these positions, because the government is made up of more than positions, we need to focus on things such as corruption and the things such as the biggest problems that are facing the government to be able to achieve economic stability. So we do not only achieve economic stability by scraping these positions, we need to focus on the bigger issues, which are things like corruption and being able to like attain and get expenditure for these governments to be able to like get to a better and stable community and country, that is. I rest my case.
Well, well, well. After this short break, we will get to hear from the judges. Which argument did they buy? Which one did they not? And which team gets to move on to semi-finals and which one does not? With that, we'll be going on a short commercial break. See you after this few minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the third segment of this quarterfinals round where we have JKUAT versus KU arguing on whether we need to reduce governors from 47 to 30 and eliminate CAS positions if all of this will bring economic stability. If you are not here for the first and the second half, let me just explain to you what has happened in a few words. Proposition has argued, based off of salaries, travel expenses, and allowances that these people would have, a lot of expenditure is going towards paying these human beings. With this then, there's a justification for the whole idea of eliminating or reducing the seats. At the same time, their version of economic stability would look like reduced amounts of loan that we are borrowing, better loan rates that we are getting, and at the same time, the interest rates will not be as exaggerated or as high as they currently are. Side opposition, on the other hand, argue that the whole idea of stability has not clearly been shown by side proposition. Equally, they mention that there's a lot of work that goes into having a CAS position. There is necessity for them to exist based off of the work that they currently carry. And side proposition ask them, then what's the work of principal secretaries that these CASs are currently doing that PSs cannot do? Then for them, they say that there was necessity for CAS's positions to be created. What they offer as an alternative is dealing with corruption and at the same time reducing salaries for these people rather than eliminating seats that are clearly beneficial or need to exist. I think by that recap, you can briefly understand how fiery this episode was, with every team struggling to maintain their stability within this debate and possibly argue for economic stability for the state so that we can get to see them in the semi-finals round. I think I'm done yapping for you. I will allow the judges to ask a question to side proposition and opposition to give them a chance to sway the judges a bit further.
To the proposition side, what's the guarantee that one big governor will be more successful than 5 governors in the same region?
All right, for mine goes to side opposition. For clarity, it's coming from a case anyway. We are living in a country that is facing a problem of high unemployment. Like there's so many people that are employed in the country currently. And by extension, if you're going to be merging these governors, it means that some governors are going to be losing jobs and adding to that statistics, right? So that means, do you think that this is a blessing in disguise because that one governor, if they lose their job, they're going to create employment for 1,000 more people?
The questions from the judges are pretty simple. For side proposition, do you think 5 governors are better than 1 governor when it comes to efficiency, or what is it that you believe in? Then from side opposition, the question to them is, don't you think that the removal of a governor from office would create more opportunities for people to get access to jobs and better capacities for their counties and even the people as a whole? I think I will allow the speakers 1 minute each to engage with the arguments and finalize their speeches. Here.
In regards to governors being effective, like my partner already stated that even when you merge like 2 counties, you're not like overburdening the person because there are already bodies and structures that already exist within those counties. So it's just now like they will be under 1 person instead of 2 people. But the second thing is to say, even if you are like presiding over that region, Like, you have people to help you. You still have your deputy, you still have MCAs, you still have senators. All of these things still exist to help the governor anyway in our world, right? It's just that now it's like, you know, we have merged 2 counties. Yeah, so the governor is still, you know, able to fulfill his duties. And the thing is, he's still effective because he still has the same incentives as the other governors to be effective. He still needs to be re-elected in 2027, so he's likely to do a good job. You still have anti-corruption bodies going after him. You still have things such as the citizens, like the Gen Zs, who are coming after politicians if you are corrupt. And it's not one person, so it's easy to track him rather than 2 people in their world. So we still think that, and the thing is, we don't need them to be more successful. We just need them to be successful, because our whole argument is not hinged on them, it's hinged on our debt.
So is governors losing jobs a blessing in disguise because they could potentially make jobs for 1,000 more people? No, and the intuition prompt for that is simple. We've had 3 election cycles. The governors who have already lost, we cannot point to any one of them who's produced 1,000 jobs. So there's no likelihood that if we reduce from 47 to 30, that is what is going to happen. I just feel the need to just point out one thing. The entire crux of Proposition's case is hinged on a reduction in expenditure. The likelihood of that happening in the political climate that you exist in is close to 0. Simple, a very simple thing. Anytime that MPs are threatened that CDF is going to be withdrawn, none of them says that this money is going to be rediverted into ministries. All they say is, you're going to lose development, you're going to lose education. Even the leaders themselves don't feel that if this money is taken away, it's going to be rediverted elsewhere. And at the same time, Proposition does not give us any assurance that the people who are coming in are going to be people who come down from heaven and are going to have your interests at heart. Because the truth of the matter is this: whether we have 2 governors or 100, whether we have 2 CASs or 100, the truth of the matter is if it's the same people who don't have your interests at heart, none of them is going to do anything for you anyway. And at the end of that, all they do is to bastardize Article 1 of the Constitution that gives you the sovereign power. So at the end of it, it doesn't make any sense at all. With that, in our case.
I think 1 minute for the debaters has just extended because I don't think any of them decided to keep time, but all is well. With that, we welcome the judges to give us feedback for the round. Who has won? Who has lost? Who do we get to see in the semi-finals? And whose journey just ended with this episode?
So before I say the call, let me just read the motion again. This House believes that Kenya will be more economically stable by reducing the number of governors from 47 to 30 and eliminating CAS positions. From what we get on this debate, Proposition tells us that if you reduce money, say traveling, salaries, and like the health benefits that these people get through probably NHIF, etc., you probably save and you can channel it to other places or redirect it, and you're looking at a position of paying your debts in time, so you want good loan interests. Opposition tells us that we really do not believe that this is the case. One, the motion also says that you want economic stability, but they still feel that corruption still exists at a particular point in time, and under development of certain regions is still going to be the order of the day, and you're going to have backlogs of work. So the definition of economic stability based on Proposition is: 1, if you save money, you're able to redirect it and probably pay your debts to get good loan interest. From Opposition, they tell us that our definition of stability is eliminating corruption to a certain extent, because that is like the whole cancer of the society we have in. However, I felt that Proposition had it over Opposition, and this is one. One, this is a THBT motion, and the motion assumes feasibility. So government has an ability or an allowance to fiat that it is possible, feasibility. So we get from Opposition that, okay, it can't happen, and even if you look at status quo, it is not possible. So feasibility is one to look at, but even secondly, they've spent a lot of time focusing on discrepancies on government's model at the expense of proving or like showing me that the status quo is okay, you know? We just need a bit of like mitigation or probably eliminating certain things, then we are going to be okay. That is just what I needed, because their definition of economic stability would be more hinged on how status quo is. Status quo is okay, but we just need to like probably take some people to court. Thank you.
We have heard from the judging panel themselves that side proposition has been able to win this debate. So with that, we will get to see them at the semi-final that is coming up pretty soon. So Kenyatta University has been able to win this round. And for them, they say, we need to reduce the number of county governors from 47 to 30 and eliminate the whole positions of CASs. Let us congratulate side proposition for winning the round. For side opposition, despite them putting up their best foot forward and trying to defend status quo, or ideally trying to defend an alternative rather than having the whole elimination of offices, they have not been able to win this round for themselves, which means this might be the last time you get to see Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology debating in this season, but rather we look forward to seeing them going forward in the debates that they have to offer. I think after listening to the arguments that you got from side proposition and opposition, it would beg the question, you at home, do you think we need to scrap off the positions of CASs? Because from side opposition, they say CASs actively hold a role in the positions that they are in. And proposition question, then the position of principal secretaries then becomes null and void, provided CASs are in office because they both do the same levels of jobs, right? So the question is, do you think we need to eliminate these seats? And even for governors, would you be comfortable with your county being merged with another county for the benefit of reducing the number of governors within the state? And the final question that came from proposition was, prior to having the new constitution of 2010, the world was surviving with just 8 regions. What then is a necessity for having 47 counties if back then it was still efficient to have the few number of regions? I don't know what you think about all of these issues that are affecting all of us as a state. Feel free to engage with us on X at KTN Home with the hashtag Campus Debates, and let us know what you think and what you feel would actually be better for your state to achieve economic stability. Thank you so much for tuning in to Campus Debate Season 2, second episode of the quarterfinals. Thank you for your continuous engagement for this amazing hour. I hope to see you next week on Monday, same time, same place, possibly different teams, and at the same time, an engaging debate from our university season. My name is Mercy Vugutsa, and I was your host.